Honorable Men Discord. Gilbert Arenas talks about alpha males. Let's talk about it. So this episode is a review of an interview that Gilbert Arenas had on VladTV. And in that interview, Arena breaks down his opinion of what an alpha male is and what describes an alpha male and what determines an alpha male. So let's get into this VladTV interview and we'll discuss it further.
Well, for example, if you go to football, you have a team captain.
Mm-hmm. Is that a leader or is that a captain that the team, the coach, decided he wanted to do? Like
I'm not sure.
This ain't high school. The fucking guy who got the C on his chest is a fucking leader. No, that's not how it works. The leader is created through battle.
Okay.
Right? You can't tell me who the alpha dog is. He's going to do that himself through whatever fucking ritual that has, right? So when you say Kevin Durant is not a leader, that's not for us to say. Only that locker room. That means you have to beat him in ones. You have to show up every day. That the leader, you know what I mean?
Okay, I get what you're saying. I got one. No, I got one for you. I got one for you. Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
During his time, Kobe commanded the Lakers to the point of even getting Shaq off the team.
Yes.
He not only had control of the players, but the front office and who was on the team and who isn't. Remember that at one point, I forgot who it was, but Lakers had that one coach.
Do you gentlemen agree? Because it sounds like what he's describing is a leader. All right? Because you could be a leader in a specific field, but then outside of that field, when you go home, you can be a beta male. The CEO of a company, yes, they are at the totem pole of the company. They, in some terms, are a leader. I guess you can say that. I don't know if we could actually say CEOs are a leader. They manage a company. They're corporate. They're supervisors to some degree. But are they leaders? They don't necessarily brush shoulders with the subordinates. So who are they leading? But let's just say CEOs are leaders. I could be wrong. I'm just throwing this out there. Does that make them an alpha male? Because they're at the top of the food chain? Just something to think about. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying my thought process is correct. I'm not saying Gilbert is correct. What are your thoughts on this? Let's continue.
Rudy T.
That guy. How long did he last with Kobe around?
He lasted after that Golden State game where he fired him in film.
Exactly. So that was truly a leader of an NBA team, right? Would you say that Kobe was a leader?
Yes.
Okay.
But did you say he was a leader when Shaq was there until he did what? Because I'm pretty sure everyone thought Shaq was the leader, right? So, you know what I mean? So
yes, it was a bit of a battle. Yeah.
Right.
I know you Kobe fans are getting fired up over this one. Was he a leader when Shaq was there? Very interesting. It's possible they were both leaders, and this is why they collided. Because unlike Jordan and Pippen, it was clear Jordan was by far better than Pippen. Although Pippen was a huge contributor to the success of the Chicago Bulls, Pippen was not Jordan. He wasn't. But again, are we talking leaders or alpha male? Right now, it sounds like we're talking about leaders. I feel like it's completely different than alpha male. The alpha male conversation, I should say. I think when you talk about leaders, it's different from an alpha male conversation, because when we talk, in my opinion, when we're talking alpha male, an alpha male is an alpha male no matter where you drop him. No matter where you place an alpha male, that person is going to be an alpha male. And that doesn't necessarily mean that if the alpha male's on the team, he's going to be the top scorer on that team. But it does mean that person demands respect. They get respect on the floor, in the locker room, outside in the parking lot, with their family, with their loved ones. They're a moving representation of someone who garners respect. That's my take on it. Anyone disagree? I'll see you in the comments. This is my kind of conversation, alpha male talk. But let's get back into it.
But ultimately, who ended up making the final decision on who stayed on the team? It was Kobe.
But what
Shaq didn't get Kobe traded.
But what happened? What was happening? It's the battle. Practice, court, performance. The alpha stands, right? It's not vocal. Like every leader is not a vocal leader, right? Kobe was just a vocal leader. Every leader is not a vocal leader, right? Some is you just follow me, I'm gonna go, right? And then a vocal person, which is usually if the leader is quiet, then the enforcer is loud. So basically all he's doing is putting words to the leader's thoughts, right? We've heard Draymond Green talk shit about everyone besides one person, right? Right? So he takes his, and I don't want to say like this, he takes his commands from Steph. If Steph looks frustrated.
All right, so correct me if I'm wrong. It almost sounds as though Gilbert Arenas is saying that Steph Curry is the alpha male of the Golden State Warriors, and Draymond Green is a subordinate. I completely disagree. Again, I believe there's a difference between leaders and alpha males. Steph Curry, absolutely, without a doubt, is the leader of the Golden State Warriors. Do I think Steph Curry is an alpha male? No. Draymond Green is an alpha male? Yes. Why? Because Draymond Green as the alpha male, and Gilbert Arenas is going to confirm this, what I'm about to say later on in this interview, but Draymond Green is the alpha male that knows he needs to protect the leader of the team because it benefits him to protect the leader of the team on all aspects, right? But he also knows that if he wanted to, for a lack of way of expressing this, if he wanted to apply pressure to Steph Curry can do nothing with Draymond Green. And it's not just about his height and size. Steph Curry, to me, doesn't have the temperament to go head-to-head with a Draymond Green on any level, on the court or outside the court. Great athlete, definitely the leader, but he's not going to be the guy if we're talking about the primitive form of battle, which is hand-to-hand. Steph Curry could do nothing with Draymond Green. We all know this. Now, in the most barbaric way of deciding who is the most dominant, much like UFC, right? Much like mixed martial arts, at the very core of all of this, and again, this is just my opinion, and this episode is completely for different perspectives on alpha male. In a very primitive way of deciding alpha male, whoever you regard as an alpha male, if they had to defend themselves against another man, who would win? Now that doesn't mean that if you lost, you're no longer an alpha male, but it just means that there's always going to be someone who's more alpha than you are. I had this discussion, I want to say maybe a year or two ago, with a close friend of mine who's older than me, former U.S. Marine. Have a huge respect for him. And we spoke about this. And he has a background in this because he studied psychology in college. And he said the interesting thing about this, and it was a great conversation. Honestly, the conversation we had, I wish I had it recorded to just play it now. But he said the interesting thing about men, period, and the whole idea of alpha male is that men, the way we operate is we internally know who's alpha male. It's almost like what Gilbert Arenas is saying, but not quite, because some of the points he's making, I don't necessarily agree with it. But men, we know who's alpha male and who's not. This is not something where you go outside and you say, I'm alpha male, and that makes you alpha male. It doesn't work that way. You just know who you are at the end of the day. We could pretend, we could put on an image for social media. We could, build ourselves up with muscles. We could take enhancement drugs so that we look the part. And that doesn't even mean an alpha male is someone who's physically strong. An alpha male could be someone with intelligence, someone who's able to strategize, someone who just has who makes better decisions than his counterpart. But going back to the conversation I had with my friend who is a Marine, he said the interesting thing is in a group of men, there's always going to be an alpha male. It doesn't matter if there's a number of alpha males in that group. There's always going to be an alpha male who outshines the other alpha males. And depending on the scenario, the pack, I believe he put it, the pack will decide who should be leading. But the one thing that he said that I found that was interesting, that I agree with depending on the scenario, he said that's the unique thing about being a man, is that we understand the greater goal. We won't necessarily, depending on the circumstance, we won't waste time fighting over who should lead. We all unanimously, I'm sorry, I couldn't get that word out. We all unanimously know who the leader is, and depending on the scenario and the time restraints that we have, we just let that person lead and we follow suit. And the beauty of how men move is that even if there was a group, even if there was a pack and they had several alpha males, depending on each and everyone's specialty, we shift who's leading at that particular time as the alpha male. Doesn't mean the whole group. The example we spoke about now is coming to me is we were talking about Navy SEALs, right? It's safe to say Navy SEALs as individuals exemplify the mentality of an alpha male. Someone who could stand on their own, they lead, they're exceptional at what they do. It's like a whole nother level from a Marine being a Navy SEAL. They individually can be regarded as alpha males, but when they come together as a group, as a pack, as a team, as a squad, there's always going to be an alpha male that's going to be ahead of the entire pack. And I just found that conversation to be interesting. Again, if you have anything you want to add to this on your thoughts of alpha male experiences with other alpha males, or experiences where you realized you weren't an alpha male, if you're confident enough to actually admit that you're not an alpha male, by all means, share your story or your comments in the comment section. But let's get back to this interview.
Mind knows how to relay that. Right? And that's because what Steph does in practice every day has earned Draymond's respect. You can't tell him who it is. That's why I said this is a battle zone thing, right? When we're coming to practice, and that's why I say when people talk about like the alpha males and the
I agree with that. Steph Curry earned Draymond's respect for what it is that they do. The same way outside of playing basketball, when they get into their cars and they're outside hanging out, in the same regard, Steph Curry's going to respect Draymond Green for his presence. Steph Curry's still not going to be the leader outside of the basketball court. And that's my opinion. If you disagree, if you think Steph Curry outside the basketball court is going to be that leader to Draymond, I'll see you in the comments. But let's continue.
And the beta males, if you guys never been on a team, shut the fuck up. Your version of what you guys think a beta male is and an alpha male is, that is not real. Your version is not real. The animal kingdom and sports is the only way you know it because it's dictated through combat. It's dictated through performance every single day. And the alphas, it's not usually the smartest and the loudest. It's not the strongest and the loudest. It's the most tactical.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like a contradiction because you said the alpha is not always the strongest and the loudest. It's the most tactical. But it almost sounded as though he's saying if you're on a team and you're outperforming all the other members of the team, that makes you alpha. I look at that as it just makes you more talented, more invested, could be more athletic. It has nothing to do with leadership. Because I know he brought up Durant earlier on in this interview, and I don't see Durant as a leader. And you Durant fans, I'll see you in the comments. Durant is one of those people that is out there to me that much like Westbrook, much like Harden, they don't necessarily make the people around them better. They are just offensive machines that are dropped on teams, and hopefully the players that they place around them are able to coexist and take that team to the playoffs or deep into the playoffs and potentially for a championship run. But like I said, Durant, Harden, Westbrook, I don't see them as necessarily leaders. Westbrook, I'll give him credit because he seems like his energy can carry a locker room. So I may take that back as far as Westbrook is concerned. But I stand on the fact that all three people I mentioned are just offensive minded. I don't see them as leaders. I don't necessarily see them as alpha male either. But that's my opinion. Let's get back to this.
Artist, intelligent, clever. The one who says, hey, listen, get on my back. I got us, right? It's that guy. It's the guy who there's a goal,
right?
And I got to figure out how to get everyone to that goal.
Right.
With that being said, that's Michael Jordan, that's Kobe Bryant. Hands down. That is Michael Jordan, that's Kobe Bryant. And whether you like him, you can say LeBron has those traits. And for the LeBron haters, tell me why LeBron is not a leader. Tell me why LeBron's not alpha male. I'd like to know. Let's continue.
Right? I got to figure out how to maneuver.
Little guy, but the way his brain functioned.
Yeah, I got to figure out how to maneuver through it. Like
he can win the war.
Yeah,
you want Napoleon on your side.
Yeah, I got 10 people with me. I got to figure out how all 10 are there. I got to figure out how not to sacrifice. So for the most part, most alpha males are shying away from battles. Right? If there's a group of dudes here and I got, my girl here and this, and you're challenging my manhood.
This is a part that I really, really, really want you gentlemen who have an opinion on this to jump in the comments. Because there's some people who feel like an alpha male is gonna, no matter what the circumstance, fight the battle and potentially lose his life. Now, we're not talking about defending your family. That's a completely different story. We're not talking about sacrificing your life for your family. Completely different story. I would expect any man with a family to be willing to do those things. But what he's talking about here is something completely different. Let's continue.
Alpha male stands down because he's already calculated how this could work out.
Right.
I challenge you, something happens, you jump me, then my girl's gonna jump in and you hit her. That is no bueno, right? So this is where I stand down. Hey, you got it, big man, my bad. You walk away.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is not an alpha male. It's tactical.
Right.
Right? So when you start...
I'll go find you afterwards.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right.
The beta male is the one who accepts that challenge.
Right, and loses.
Yes. He's the loud.
Whoa, 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 whoa. So the alpha male will stand down because he assesses the situation, so he walks away. I know a lot of people who revere themselves as alpha males, or like that revere themselves as alpha males, and they're not stepping down. They're not standing down. So I'd like to get some of your opinions on this. He says the beta male is the one that would actually go for it. That's an interesting take, because I think the beta male is too scared to even consider going for it. I really would like to hear your thoughts on this episode. Really. I get a lot of feedback when I'm talking Carmelo Anthony and that situation. Let me get some feedback on this. And no disrespect to that situation. That's a serious matter. But on this topic, the topic of alpha male, what is your thought on the various things that Gilbert Arenas said? But as always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.